let's start out with a broader look at the economy. I'm about to ask you about normal, even though it feels like we're so far off from normal. You mention it as multiple major speed bumps. Talk to me about the obstacles to getting back to normal. One hint could be at the CNN Business Back to Normal Index, showing that the economy is just 79% of its way back to normal. It seems like we're pretty far away from normal.
Yeah, and look, that's terrible. So you look, 79% that's not a good grade. So if we stall out before even getting back to where we were, that would be a huge problem. I think the first thing is, as I always say, the virus is the boss. And if we cannot get control of the virus, we will not be able to get back to 100% of what we were, not even close. If you look around the world, it is in the countries where they've gotten control of the spread of the virus that their economies are rebounding. So we have to do that. The speed bumps I'm nervous about, and I hope that this ADP number this morning is not indicative of what's about to happen, but I have some concerns. The speed bumps are, number one, you've got all the states and most of the cities of the country in desperate situations. They have balanced budget requirements. We're having a massive downturn. They're going to have to lay off literally millions of workers and raise taxes in the face of the downturn. That will make the downturn worse and prevent some of the comeback. Number two, the PPP money and a lot of the extensions for small business are now run out. And you add on top of that the relief from the unemployment insurance and some of the other forms of relief, and Washington cannot agree on an assistance package. You could see millions more workers get thrown onto the unemployment rolls as those companies go under, liquidate, go bankrupt, and shut down. So I think that combination of three potential speed bumps ought to be sobering. I cannot for the life of me understand why the Republicans in Congress are not more motivated to try to get the extensions going. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, wouldn't it makes you wonder if an election just around the corner would push Republicans to actually make a deal, right?
That's what I would have thought, that the Republicans and the White House would be pushing for, let's have immediate relief so that people feel better going into November than what they are going to feel if the economy obviously slows down. If the job creation that we saw for a few months at pretty robust levels suddenly slows, I think you could see a sour turn of just ordinary people in the economy. Then now, obviously, it's a whole different discussion that the stock market is doing well, but historically, the stock market is not the economy, and the politicians are usually most concerned about the ordinary workers and ordinary voters. So there's a whole dynamic here that I just don't get.
Yeah, let's talk about that disconnect that we are seeing between Main Street and Wall Street. You know, it is something that President Trump likes to use as his barometer of success. But Main Street is suffering here, but we are watching Wall Street rocket higher. I'm scratching my head.
Yeah, and look, we had the worst day in the history of the American job market. We lost 20-some million jobs on that one jobs report, and the stock market went up that day. So I think, it's got to be one of three things. Either the markets believe that the COVID crisis is going to be short-lived. We're going to get control of the spread, or we're going to get a vaccine, or we're going to get something. So the long-term outlook is better than what people fear. Or two, they think the feds and the federal government's rescues are going to preserve them. Or three, the large companies are viewing that their small business competitors are all going to go out of business. And so their future profits are going to be higher. Or I guess the fourth one is they could be irrationally nuts. And it just emphasizes the stock market is not the economy. If you look at the stock market, you can see why the tech sector is doing well. You've had a major shift in consumer and worker behavior to doing things online. So you could see how how there would be sectors of the stock market that would be doing well, but that the overall would be performing at a very strong level when the real economy is probably going to have the worst year that we've had since 1932. There's still something to be explained there.
And jobs, of course, is a huge reason why the economy is in such a hole. And you alluded to this earlier about your concerns about the ADP number that came out, badly missing estimates. I want to talk about jobs for a moment as far as what President Trump has said. At the Republican convention, he pledged to create 10 million jobs in the next 10 months. How doable is that, do you think?
Well, it might be doable, but I mean, if you add 10 million jobs in the next 10 months, I don't think that would even get us back to where we were before, or it would be, right in that same range. If you can't stop the spread of the virus out of control, then it's not doable at all. Because what we have seen, the comeback in the job market, are temporary layoffs ending. And that's the easy part. Now we get to the harder part, which is you've got sectors like travel and tourism and cruise lines and barbershops and things where there's been a noticeable change in consumer behavior. And so it's kind of hard to envision as many people going back to work in the restaurant sector in the next 3 months without some control of the spread of the virus. And if you can't do that, you've got to have some other engine. And thus far, those engines are a little stalled out. And most of the rescue money is not stimulus, as I would like to emphasize. Stimulus is about where the government's going to inject some money and hope that gets the economy started, whereas this is just burning money to stay warm while the furnace is out. So I think we're going to have to make some pretty serious decisions on the public health side and on the economic side.